we will be using a tool called a storyboard to help us kind of plan out our flip book. Now, you don't need to have this fancy storyboard that I have here. You can do this on a scrap piece of paper with a bunch of boxes. It doesn't have to be really fancy, but this is to plan out what is happening in your story, or we sometimes call it a narrative. Okay, so what's happening in your story, and how long does it take to tell that part of your story? Okay, so I'm going to flip over to my drawn example so you kind of see. So I have my seaweed underwater, and that's all it is in frame one. So a frame is what we call one of these squares. So this is one frame. Here's another frame. Here's another frame. Here's another frame. So each of these pieces of paper is a frame. Okay, so one frame at a time. So I have just my empty sea, and that's at my first frame. And then I see my fish's bubbles coming in from the right. So the bubbles are slowly coming in. So like one bubble, two bubbles, three bubbles. And that's going to take more than one frame. So if I take a look, I'm going to unbind this. I have one bubble, and I have two bubbles. And then my fish starts popping out when I have three bubbles. Okay, so this is frame number 4 here. Okay, so 4 through 9, this is where my fish comes more into view. So you can't just have things just appear. Okay, you can, like maybe it's a genie and it just appears. But if I want to create the illusion that my fish is slowly creeping its way across, it's going to take more than one slide to do it. So notice how my fish shows up more and more as my frames keep moving forward. Okay. And that's how I was kind of planning out. And this, you don't have to stick to whatever numbers you're guessing here. It might change as you keep going. Okay. And then after a while, my fish gets to the center and it kind of hangs out there and chills there for a little bit. And I just let it sit there for a little. Okay. Now, notice how I said fish in the center. Does this look like the center to you? No, okay, with your binder clip, okay, you're going to notice that when you clip this together, if I had things drawn right here, I wouldn't be able to see them, okay, and I don't see my entire page, so I only see about this much of it, so about half of it. So keep that in mind, that this box right here is this much of your page, okay. So as I keep going, things are moving. And I added some things like the seaweed's moving a little bit. The bubbles are floating up, okay? But then I created the illusion that the fish was coming, and I made sure I used several frames. See, 12 through 16, the fish gets bigger and bigger, okay? So it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it got to so big that it was coming around the fish, chomped down on the fish. So you are spacing it out so then to see how long it takes. And you're going to end up taking about like 24, 25 pages for this to actually be all the way put together. Okay, you're probably going to use a minimum of 20 of these frames to tell your story. And then you're going to have a couple at the end, and that's going to keep it so your last page doesn't get bent too much. Okay, but this can sort of help you plan out how long things are going. And if you want, like, my big fish smiling, see how I went 18 to 22? I wanted my big fish to just sit there and have a big cheesy smile for like a second, okay? And to make things last longer, you need to draw the same thing multiple times. So we could talk more about this if you want to ask me questions later on, that kind of stuff. But this is sort of like a big lowdown about how to plan out using this storyboard. So let me know if you have questions.